Well, I'm a 41-year-old local nurse with 3 children, and I represent families and people from a lower demographic whose voice hasn't necessarily been heard at the council table. I strongly believe that we're only as strong as our weakest link, and lifting up people from disadvantage can only benefit everyone. Traditionally, it hasn't been a council priority to look into disadvantage and help those areas, but we have improved no end. It's an exciting space to be in, and I feel like I've got more to contribute if that's the path council's going down. Council's done some really innovative work in the space of reducing emissions, and I think that's pleasing because it shows leadership. Being a small regional council, on the global scale of things, what we do may not technically make too much of a difference on the emissions overall, but what it does do is encourage other like-minded councils and councillors to take the lead and go ahead with these opportunities. We've been putting solar on all of our large-scale facilities to help bring down emissions. We've looked at different forms of energy. Aquamoves is being powered by a lower carbon emission motor there, which is actually saving us money. We are continuing the rollout of this loan scheme for commercial businesses to also transition to solar, and they apply for a loan through council, and we apply the loan to their rates, and it's very low interest. So instead of the loan being attached to the company and the person as a risk, it's attached to the property, and we can pay it back through rates over 20 years. So I think we can do more in that space. We're really keen we could roll it out to residences as well and hook it up to some grids of solar that we're supposedly developing ourselves, but it's been a long wait to see the beginning of this. But I have a feeling next term could be the catalyst. And there's rumours on the grapevine that we're already headed towards no carbon emissions by 2030. And I've got no reason to doubt that. And any other innovative processes that come to us will be in full support because we have declared a climate emergency. Even things like using recycled products to pave our road systems. It might be more costly. It does cost a little more, but it's helpful overall in stopping waste from going to landfill, which also has a cost. So it evens itself out. And our really great policy that we've just introduced is single-use plastics being banned from council events. That again shows leadership, and it offers us different ideas on how to do things sustainably. I do think being a rural regional area, there is a place for some urban sprawl. I think it's nice for Melbourne people to get out of a congested city and come down here with their hobby farms and a change of pace and less consumption and everything's calm. Like, it's just that philosophy of reduction where you have your own patch of land and you can live on it sustainably. I do think there's a place for that. But at the same time, high density has been proven to appeal to younger people. It helps the shops because people walk past the windows, see things and come back in and buy them. It helps traffic congestion because people could walk to work instead of having to need that expense of a car. It helps with safety because more eyes on the street means more passive surveillance, which just discourages crime and antisocial behaviour. And it just gives that metropolitan feel about it. There's always people walking around, there's always something happening, and our young people are more likely to stay here instead of running off to Melbourne where they can do all this. They could stay here. I think the mall issue could be a bit different. It is a tired mall. It hasn't had substantial investment in that infrastructure for a good 20 years, and it's probably 10 years overdue. So I don't think it's a waste to try and give it a spruce up. Absolutely not. I mean, I would have been okay with a lick and polish because I like having that open space without cars where people feel safe. They can push prams, they can be the flanner in front of coffee shops and not have to worry too much about traffic. It's just a different type of space that appeals to different types of shoppers. I avoid the marketplace. That's just my personal preference. I find it claustrophobic and far too busy, whereas I'd happily walk down the mall every day. That's just the different types of shoppers. And if we can appeal to those people who want to stay outdoors, want to catch up and socialize with friends, want to just take their time. So timed parking would have to be looked at. You need options for all day. If you go to a cinema, have a lunch, have a wine, get your hair cut, you have to keep running back to your car. So that to me makes no sense. But no, I do think the mall investment is warranted because there's different types of shoppers than people who would use department stores. So I think that we'll see that once it's done, or at least I hope so. There's no business case, so we're taking a bit of a risk, but at the same time, it's so overdue. Something had to be done. It's just nobody could agree on what. So I'm grateful and happy that we're going ahead with anything. Needs to happen. Public transport is hugely important to everyone who lives in any rural area. Connectivity between places is a huge issue for us. And I guess maybe because it's not such a big issue over in Melbourne or where there's already an established train system, we've been overlooked in terms of infrastructure. So council has a huge part to play in advocating state government to get that built. We have had a recent announcement of stage 2 of the rail upgrade, which was pushed through by Susanna Sheed, and that has stalled. It's been broken into stages, and we're not likely to see an outcome of whether we get the 9 return train services until stage 3. So there's definitely some room for lobbying there. People need to get to Melbourne to use the medical services, radiology, even diagnosis. We don't have all the services here. So it's a responsibility of state government to make sure people in rural areas and regional areas are connected. In much the same way as we're asking state to come to the party with our hand out saying our residents need to get to Melbourne for services, in this municipality itself, we have exactly the same problem with people from smaller outer areas not being able to travel to Shepparton to receive the same services. So a bus system that did link those small towns is a good idea, and it is a popular idea. And early in my term, council did consider that, and we all agreed that it probably wasn't feasible based on numbers. But that's exactly what we're asking the state government to do, the chicken and the egg theory. Once the services come in, more people will use it. So we'd probably need to see a trial of bus systems linking up the smaller towns into Shepparton, do a proper feasibility study and go from there. And that's something I would support. I just need a trial first to back up the argument.